Hey, what's up, everybody? We're stepping into the box for this episode of Quick Pitch, where we're going to talk about Jordy Bahl and her move back home to Nebraska.
Yeah, after two phenomenal seasons with Oklahoma, uh, winning back-to-back national championships, All-American pitcher Jordy Bahl decides, you know what? I want to go home.
I bleed red.
Yeah, enters the transfer portal and goes back to Nebraska. Um, about her decision, she said, I've decided to return home and play the game I love, closer to the things that have made me who I am and that I have always been more or and that have always been more important to me than this game. Um her that decision and her explanation for the decision to go back home, it makes a lot of sense because she's been an advocate for supporting student athletes' mental health for I don't want to say a very long time, but at least for the 2 years she's been at Oklahoma, she's been a steward of athletes' mental health, student athletes' mental health. Um, so the decision to move back home it wasn't a surprise to me.
Yeah, and if you look into it and you read a few articles, you see a lot of information about how close she was with her family in the first place, and you'll see coaches from her childhood saying things about how it was more of a shock when she decided not to stay in Nebraska for college ball and instead go to Oklahoma. And I think part of it too is just like the fact if you're a homebody, you're a homebody, and there's no shame in it to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
There's
everybody gets homesick, I get it. But there's some people that, you get homesick, especially when you go off to college. You get homesick maybe first month or two, and then you kind of get over it. And some people don't. And that's why a lot of people do transfer back. And for Dirty Ball, that was part of her decision.
yeah, and I when I say it wasn't a surprise to me, I don't necessarily mean that like it was not a surprise at all. Like in no way, shape, or form. Because obviously an all-American pitcher at Oklahoma who's won back-to-back national championships, you're like, what? Why are you going back to Nebraska? But then when you take a step back and you look at the full scope of the matter, you're like, oh, of course she's going to go back home. She's been talking about mental health and not every single press conference in that she's spoken in, but like a good handful of them. And she's from Nebraska. She loves Nebraska. She has a tattoo of Nebraska. Like she's really close to her family. She's obviously really close to her friends back in Nebraska. Like, yeah, of course. It makes sense that she would want to move back to Nebraska. So, and I'm sure some of it probably comes from a little bit of the competitor in her who wants a new challenge.
Yeah. She wants to
Like,
do even, okay, yes, a new challenge, but also like part of it too, I think, is like you almost want to do it for your home state. You're
yeah.
out there rocking it and showing the country and really the world that you are she is her. That
Yeah.
that you are one of the best pitchers to play the game. And I think once you recognize that, part of you is always gonna want to go back and represent your hometown, your home state.
Yeah. I mean, you ask any professional athlete who I don't want to say any professional athlete, but most professional athletes, you ask them who they wanted to play for before they were in the league. It's always
Home team.
whoever their home team was. Yeah. Like the Kelsey brothers, they talk about it they have talked about it on their podcast numerous times. Like they grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. They wanted to play for the friggin' Browns. So
Never.
the
Good
Browns,
choice
they're
on the
not.
Kelsey on the Kelsey brothers and good choice.
I mean, I don't think they really had their, you
That
know,
much choice in it, but
right. I don't think they had their pick of the litter. You know what I mean? Coming out of Cincinnati,
right.
but I mean, obviously it's worked out well for them. But I know that they would, if I know if the Cleveland Browns offered them what they're currently making, respectively, with the Eagles and the Chiefs, and they got to play on the same team,
Oh, no
hands,
brainer.
yeah, hands down, they would go.
Yeah.
They'd be like, it's the hometown team, and we get to play together, and we're gonna make the same money that we've been making.
We're
Sign
in.
me up. Check, check,
Yeah.
check. Sign me up.
Yes.
So yeah,
Something
like
different about playing for a home team.
yeah. So yeah, Jordy Ball going back to Nebraska, growing up a Nebraska fan, just bleeding red, like just red through and through, Cornhusker red. I mean, it makes sense. And if we're gonna be honest, you seen the pictures of her posted up in her Nebraska uniform? You haven't seen that
I don't think so.
when she like made her announcement?
When she first like back in May,
I think it was
June.
June. Yeah, like there was one with she was holding a bat behind her head in
Maybe I
her
did see those. Maybe I did see
yeah
those. Was it straight red?
yeah
No. Yeah?
yeah it was a solid red uniform.
Maybe I
If
did see those.
you had to have seen it. Anyway, looks good in Nebraska uniform. The you know the red on the red like
Not given tomato?
no because she's really fair skinned so it balances out. No, but I
Not
mean
until she
she
gets sunburned at the beginning of season.
I'm sure she's been in
Ugh.
the tanning bed long before the season starts.
Yeah, well, got to. Can't go out there pale and immediately get a farmer's tan. That's not any fun.
Oh man. But no, she looks good in Nebraska uniform. It's not like a weird look, you know, like if she had gone from Oklahoma to I don't know,
Oregon.
was yeah, or
Green? It would look weird.
I was thinking like a purple and like a ECU, right? Like granted she would never go to ECU,
Oh,
but
right.
but that would look just wild. That would
Foreign.
not look yeah, that would not look right at all. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just it makes sense, you know. She missed having her support system at Oklahoma, just being so far away from home. And now back in Nebraska, that support system's there. Uh, you know, with the time commitment and the pressure you put on yourself as a student athlete, and I mean, even like that coaches put on you, that professors put on you. Um, like you need that support system. You need to be able to get away and just not think about
Relax.
everything at school. Yeah, and just relax. Just woo-saw it at home,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and I mean that's what she said. She said, you know, high expectations are still there with softball, and I think any high level athlete is going to put that on themselves. Being able to escape on the weekends and go back home and see my family and just feeling like I'm not so far away that it softball is not everything. I found that it's just refreshing. That's what Jordy Ball says about being back home, being in Nebraska. And I mean, I feel that, you know, like we've been on long road trips and away from our homes, our families for a while, um, both as players and as coaches. And like just there's just something that just hits different, coming home.
Yeah.
Like you come home, or even if you don't, if you've never experienced that as a player or as a coach, you've experienced that feeling on some level. Like take a vacation, for instance. Vacation, if you have kids, unless it's not a vacation. Um, you go on, a 4 or 5 day vacation. When you get home, you just like, oh, I'm home. Oh, it
Something
feels
different about
so.
sleeping in your own bed,
Yes, it feels
showering
so
in your
good to
own
be back in your home.
shower.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Like, so while that may not be the case for Jordy Ball, as far as like her just like living at home, um, she's so much closer to home. She's able to get away on the weekend and just relax and forget about school, forget about softball, and then come Monday morning, back at it. She got that mental break. She was able to decompress, come back Monday morning, regenerated and ready to take on the week. And I think there's a heck of a lot to say about that, about being able to take that mental break, even if it's just for a day. It just, there's something that's rejuvenating about that process, and just being able to flush like any frustration that you may have had from the week prior, or even being able to go celebrate with
Yeah.
people that you love, right? Like, oh, I just hit a PR. I threw, I've been sitting 72 and I PR'd 75 today. Or,
It's nice to have
I
somebody to
mean,
go home, especially your support system,
that aren't your
where,
teammates.
right, you
Yeah,
got to
that
have a
you,
change of face every now and then because, I mean, you
yeah,
get cooped up with the same people for a lot of months of the year, and it is definitely something that has to be that you have to take a break from.
yeah. Or to celebrate, something else that's going on with your family and not necessarily you, right?
Yeah.
And do it in person. Like, I'm sure she shared moments with her parents, or her friends back home, through like FaceTime, or just over the phone in a phone conversation or a text message or something, where like they've both, like, she's been involved in some type of celebration, something to get happy for, excited about. But like being in the room with somebody to share a moment is like, it's just different.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean,
So
yeah, I mean, my mom's my best friend, and I talk to her all the time, every day, multiple times a day. Sometimes she runs my ear off. But at the end of the day, when I get to go home, it's just like, oh, finally I get to relax. And here's the couch that I don't have to worry about so and so texting me, calling me, hey, where you at? What are you doing? Yada, like, it's just relaxing to just get to go home and hang out and not
yeah,
have to worry about, okay, well, now I got weights this morning in class and this, or like even now, I'm
yeah,
not obviously an athlete anymore, but even now,
right,
it's not like, oh, great, now I don't have to do laundry or clean or do this. Like, it's just like a
yeah,
breath of fresh air.
yeah. It's relaxing. It's rejuvenating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you get to recoup, good to go, energized for the week.
Yeah. A little R&R, as they say. Um, I mean, and now for Jordy Ball, you're talking about like pretty much every single home game, your parents are going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, I, I, I cannot tell you how much it means to a kid to be able to look up in the stands and see your parents.
It's just a different, okay, yeah, you might have your best friend or your significant other or somebody else that's close to you there, but it's not the same as having your parents who are, you know, you're their biggest fan, they're your biggest fan. They're just
Yeah,
sitting up
and
there watching
like
you do your thing. Like,
yeah, and like I'm more specifically speaking to this as a parent myself, as a dad. Like I miss a lot of my kids' gymnastics stuff, like practice. She's too young to have like meets and stuff right now. Um, but I miss a lot of her practices. When I do get to go to a practice, like she's looking for me.
yeah.
Like Bella is looking for me. And like the other day, I was able to go and she didn't know that I was coming. And I showed up and she saw me and she was like waving at me.
Lit up like a
And
Christmas tree.
right, like she and even with my wife being there, um, like she still looks like is she still there? Right? Like she just wants to know that we're there, we're watching, and like it's just it's almost like she sees us there and she knows that she's safe.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I don't necessarily think that that is the thought process that would be going through Jordy Ball's head as a grown woman. Um, I know that her if she looks up in the stands, she sees her parents like,
It's like an extra
yeah, I
boost
mean,
of confidence.
right, yeah. So really cool for her. Really glad she was able to go back home and play for Nebraska. I would fully expect her to continue to dominate. I mean, how could you not? Um, but I'm really curious to see, like you just said, it kind of gives you like an extra boost of confidence. I'm really curious to see if that is the case, and she's even better than she has been the last few years.
And boy, if that's the case, these other teams sure are not gonna have a fun time playing against her.
No. I don't think they're gonna have a fun time playing against her anyway, especially the folks in the Big Ten, because if you listen to our Big Ten podcast episode, folks in the Big Ten can't hit unless you play for Indiana. But
Gonna have to figure it out now.
you ain't figuring it out with her in the circle, that's for sure.
No, how do you think it feels, Noah? I mean, she finished with a finish, like she doesn't have more years to play. But the 2 years that she played for Oklahoma had a less than one ERA. How do you think it feels going to play her and just being like, all right, yeah, sure. I mean, the chances of us scoring at least one run, maybe. Might be able to. Man,
I mean, how did it feel? What was her name? Samantha Richards? Is that what's her name?
yeah, don't talk about it.
Oh, Valdosta State just
She was different.
destroying dreams for Ashley Gagne.
Man, what's Florida too? They had a pitcher that just threw this freaking whack screwball. I looked like a buffoon trying to swing for it. Mm-mm.
Wow. Oh, I got
Yeah.
buffoon it every day, so.
Okay. All right.
Oh man. But yeah, super happy for Jordy Ball. I hope she's really enjoying being back home. It sounds like she is, so looking forward to the season, seeing seeing just how good she's gonna do. Watch out, Big Ten. Y'all are in for a world of hurt.
Yeah. No kidding.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for Quick Pitch. We'll see you next time.